What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Exploring New Jersey podcast. And today we are in Waldwick, New Jersey. So we are here at Gear Block Brewing in Waldwick, and we have, I'm drinking the One Way Trip, which is a collaboration with Autodidact, which is in Morris Plains. So I think we'll have to check that out next. What are you drinking?
I am drinking the Super Citra, which supposedly is the flagship here. So as for a recommendation, this is what they told me. Almost done, almost ready for another.
So anybody who's watching on the video can see that either Scott drinks really fast, or he got here before us, or maybe he just really likes it.
Or both, or all three.
Or all three. So, all right, cool. So let's get right into the town of Waldwick. Let's just do some housekeeping notes. So we're located in Bergen County. We're about 2.1 square miles as far as the town is concerned. Median household income is about $126,000. That's rounding up. Population, we've got about 10,290 people. And the average sale price for 2022 was out of 104 homes that sold. The average sale price was $569,037.
Correct.
So what did you notice about Waldwick, just kind of driving around?
Just doing a quick drive around. I actually haven't been to the town all too much. I know that's, not too far from me, but it was always kind of like one of those small little towns that are almost forgotten about, in my opinion. But what I did notice is that it seems like more of, your blue-collar community, small-town USA towns, right? So driving around, you see a lot of capes, a lot of, raised capes, bi-levels. I don't know about you. I even saw like a lot of multifamily homes because based on what we were kind of learning about this town too, is that the history is that this is a big commuter town, right? I think that it was kind of built around a train station, which we could jump into as well.
Yeah, break it down. Tell us about the history of what's
going
on
so
here.
Supposedly that this town was originally known as Orville Township, and it was really known as an agricultural area used for produce, and got a lot of produce to cities like New York City as well as Patterson. The Erie Railroad was built here in 1848. So that cotton from mills in Hohokus and farm produce could get to manufacturing sites in a timely manner. So with that in mind, it seemed like this was almost an undeveloped town. Bringing the train station in is kind of what started to create a little bit of a community around it.
Yeah, and so we know that that's a commuter train now, and we'll get to that in a minute. The original people, the Lenape Indians, they first occupied this part of Bergen County, which is interesting for it to go back that far. And then some of the surrounding towns, right? So we mentioned we're in Bergen County.
Correct.
Some of the surrounding towns around Waldwick are, Allendale, Hohokus, Midland Park, Ridgewood, Saddle River, and Wyckoff.
It's actually a lot for a town that's only 2 square miles.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, we're finding a theme, right? Is that, here in northern New Jersey, there's a lot of small towns that kind of all,
right,
touch.
They're planted around a bunch of other towns.
Yeah. And it's, kind of, you had mentioned too, it's like we're seeing that each town has their own unique attributes, right? So that every town here in like northern New Jersey even though they're so close, they do have their own personalities, most of them, right?
Right.
And so when we're talking about like Waldwick compared to maybe like a Wyckoff or Ridgewood or some of these other towns, I mean, anything jump out to you on that?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's vastly different from, driving through Wyckoff to get here and you're seeing these multi-million-dollar homes. I almost kind of just assumed Waldwick was one and the same, where a lot of people might just rule it out as an affordable town just because of where it's actually located on a map. So you still have those benefits of not being far from those things, but it seems like a little bit more of an affordable town, in my opinion, just based on overall size of homes. And, like I said, going back to the small town USA is the feel that I got, not oversized properties by any means.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It's a, how do you say it without kind of putting one down or the other or whatever, but it just is very more comfortable. Not comfortable is not the right word, but definitely that like, I think you pretty much nailed it, actually.
Yeah, I would say that if I was a first-time home buyer, right, I would see myself comfortably being able to find something here versus going to a place like a Franklin Lakes where the average home is $1 million or more, right? So, it's not intended to be derogatory in any marks. It's just I think that there's actually decent-sized homes for a lot of first-time home buyers, in my opinion. Starter homes in certain cases.
Yeah, and so I have a client who I consider a friend now, and he was telling me about Waldwick. We actually have family here in Waldwick, too, so...
First town I don't have family in.
Yeah, I know, so we're finding, either you have family or I have family, but, I had a client here who sold his house here in Waldwick. And, I called him before this and just kind of said, hey, like, what's some stuff about Waldwick? And one of the things he said, which I thought was really great about this town, was when he had a hardship in his family, he had the community really rally around him. He had kids in school, he had, some tough times that he was going through, but to have that like small town feel in northern Bergen County, where people can rally around you and you kind of really have that true community vibe and feel, that's special, man.
And I'll tell you too, I really noticed that even just driving down, I think it's Wyckoff Ave, and then you turn onto Hopper, sorry, I'm not sure, but that's where you have the middle school, the high school, the town pool. Everything seems like that's where, if you're a kid, that's just where you go to hang with your friends.
Yeah.
Like if I grew up here, I feel like that's where I would be. If I was in school, if I wasn't in school, like just meet me down there. There's baseball fields, basketball, football, just you could go crazy down there as a 12, 13-year-old kid.
Yeah. Yeah, and something else he told me too was that, a lot of the like schools and stuff, like the track, the fields, I saw basketball courts that looked like only a few years old, but they just redid a lot of that kind of stuff. So that's
it looks new.
That's a huge perk. You're going, kids are playing at the playground, the basketball court. I mean, it was a rainy, kind of crummy day yesterday, and there were still kids playing basketball and out and about. So I think it was like one of the first days off of school. So
yeah.
But all right, so let's talk. We talked about some of the surrounding towns. Take us through the public transportation.
Yeah. So again, being that the Waldwick train station is kind of what this community was almost built around, still very prevalent in this area. So it has two main train lines, and you might be able to comment on this as well or better as I can. There was a main line and a Bergen line. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two main ones. I think that they'll get you to pretty much wherever you need to go. Start on those, and you could always kind of, subsect off of them. So basically, the train seems to be the main point for commuters, but there are some alternative options as well. If you are driving, it's about 45 minutes to the city. 25 miles to Midtown, I would say, because 25 miles is probably the better way to do it. Again, we've joked before, we'll joke again that everything is traffic-based, not distance-based.
Right, yep.
But 25 miles from Midtown. Best option for busing. It didn't seem like the New Jersey Transit did too much around this area, just because it doesn't look like there's too much of major highways cutting through, with the exception of 17. But it did seem that there's a coach bus that'll do pickup about every 40 minutes on Route 17 and Prospect Street.
Yeah.
So if you're not a fan of the trains, I think that could be the other better option for you.
Yeah. All right, you pretty much nailed it with that. So you gave everyone the rundown on transportation, so that's great. And when we talk about the way that the town is kind of set up, it's more of a west to east town, right? So Route 17 is the only real major highway that goes through it. That is on the east side of Waldwick here. And so you kind of get the train is a little bit more in the center of town, and then you've got the east, the
west backing up to Wyckoff there.
Yeah, the west is kind of more. And you see that kind of transition throughout the town as you drive through it. You see some of that runoff from like Wyckoff and some of the bigger, more built-up homes, some bigger lots. Then you kind of get more towards the Route 17 side, and you see some more capes and a little bit more of that like grid pattern, suburban neighborhood, a little hilly. But that's actually where we have some family there on Bergen. They love it there. So everyone who you talk to about Waldwick, I mean, at least that I have, is passionate about the town. They love it. They feel like they've...
Yeah, it seems kind of like a hidden gem too, right? Where a lot of people don't necessarily know about it just because of the overall size. And unless you actually do know about it, there's not really a reason to be here.
Yeah,
right?
Which can be a little bit of a perk, right? So growing up in Saddlebrook, it's great for the reasons that like you've got like so many major highways running through it, but man, when you're trying to drive around on rush hour,
it's terrible.
You've got the offshoot of all those locations. So a little best of both worlds. And when we were at when I was at the pizzeria yesterday, Scott had some car troubles yesterday, so we're recording.
Lost the key. I couldn't get here, so here we are today.
I'm trying not to bring it up though. It's a sensitive subject for Scott, so we're going to try and keep that.
I'm over it. I'm over it.
We've determined there's a reason that he couldn't find the key, and we're here with you today for that reason.
So this is a 2-day segment.
This is yeah, right. I lost my train of thought there. What was I saying?
No, so you were saying that...
when I was at the pizzeria yesterday. Yeah, when I was at the pizzeria yesterday, I said, yeah, I was from Saddlebrook or whatever, and I was like, not too far, and he said, yeah, it depends on Route 17. So it definitely gives you a feel of like, Route 17 is your main source of in and out. So.
Exactly, and I'm sure there's little back roads and stuff that might get backed up because all the schools, like the middle school and the high school, being right next to each other, I'd imagine probably isn't fun right after school hours. But yeah, I mean, just going back to my point that unless you have a reason to be here, you don't realize the perks of being here, right? I don't know about you, but I didn't notice too much of like a downtown, right? Some shops here and there, but it didn't give you that same vibe of a couple other towns that we saw, like Caldwell with, Bloomfield Ave. I didn't notice anything like that.
Yeah, no, there is, where like the town hall is, again, in that center, in that more central part of Waldwick. That's kind of where you're going to go for your restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it's a lot of homes, businesses, and it's a pretty unique town. I'd say it's kind of one you really got to drive through to really get a feel
to really
for.
Appreciate.
It's not like you're down, like you're to your point. So, but all right, so let's get into parks and recreation, right? So we talked about the town pool already a little bit. I was actually there yesterday, and it's again rainy day. So the manager of the pool was there. He was great. He was like, hey, yeah, come on in. And I was able to get some footage of the pool, actually.
Let you swim a lap?
Yeah, because, like, I'm not going to go film. No, I'm not going to go film while people are, like, in the pool.
Of course.
That's weird. Nobody wants to.
So maybe the rain was a good thing.
So the rain, yeah, it did actually work out. So he pulled all the lifeguards out of there, and I was able to go get some shots. So you're probably looking at that right now if you're watching the video.
Probably the only time you'll see that pool empty all summer.
Yeah, but it was big, man. It was a nice, large pool. They had a little side section, I'm assuming, which was like for the kiddie pool. They had a little swing set. So not all towns have a pool, right? And we would, point you towards the town website to get some more information on like how much that costs and all that kind of stuff. But they do allow residents and non-residents,
which is cool.
Some of the surrounding towns, I mean, it's a little more money, right?
Sure.
But there is membership available if it's still available. So definitely check that out if you're interested in, joining a town pool or a town with a pool. I think that's a huge perk.
Oh, definitely.
We talk about it in the real estate world, right? Like people ask all the time, like, is adding a pool going to add value to my home? And really what we always say is, it's really like a net zero, right? Because for as many people as would love to buy a house with a pool, there's just as many people who don't want anything to do with a pool, don't want the liability of a pool or the maintenance of it. So it's really kind of a zero. But what I will tell you is if buying a pool is something that's important to you, more specifically an in-ground pool, I would probably encourage you to kind of aim more towards a house with a pool already.
Yeah, rather than having to get one set up, engineering and things like that. But I could also tell you, too, having bought a house with a pool, it's a pain in the ass sometimes. It's great once you get it up and running, but the actual maintenance on it could be a lot. So, having a town with a pool could be the perfect alternative of not necessarily having to worry about it. Exactly. Or if you even have young kids, there's lifeguards on staff that if they even went down with their friends, there's still that safety feature as well.
Yeah. No, that's great. All great points, although... I'm not even sure you still have that pool because I haven't been invited. So maybe it's giving you a hard time.
Well, when it's not green anymore, you're more than welcome.
So you're having a hard time with the green part of the pool. They do make people do offer services.
You know what it is? That it's a saltwater pool. I grew up with chlorine pools, so I'm learning a thing or two as we go.
You're not out there with the salt shaker throwing that in there? Yeah, I could see that.
Salt over the shoulder.
All right.
But no, I'll kind of hijack this a little bit. So definitely the pool being one of the major focal points of this town. One thing that we did notice when we were looking is there's not too many major parks here, right? It seems that, though, being that it's a smaller town and in a densely populated area, there's not much room for just natural wildlife and stuff. So the alternative that the town offered is that they do have the track at the high school that residents are welcome to use, just obviously not through school hours. But it's available from 8 a.m. to dusk, as long as there's no other sporting events or school going on.
Yeah, so that's cool. And then, there's a couple small playgrounds and stuff like that. But, honestly, if fitness is, running or bike riding or something like that, I mean, there's plenty of neighborhoods that you can run that are quiet, that really aren't, it's not like you have to worry about major roads. Obviously, if you are on one, but plenty of neighborhoods and that kind of stuff, too. So if a park is something that's really important to you, Waldwick might not be the right fit. That being said, if it's really just for fitness or something like that, you've got plenty of options, and there's plenty of other parks in the area that aren't too far. So.
Right.
All right, so let's dig into schools a little bit. Always have to throw the disclaimer in, do your due diligence on schools. We don't judge schools really based on experience, just really off of the ratings. So, all right, I'm just going to go through them real quick. Traphagen Elementary School, 9 out of 10. That's on the Route 17 side. There's Crescent Elementary School, which is a 7 out of 10. That's the west end of Waldwick. That's off of Crescent Ave. You've got the Waldwick Middle School and High School, which we mentioned are in that same area.
Right next to each other.
Right next to each other. Waldwick Middle School, 8 out of 10. High School is a 6 out of 10. And the school mascot is the Warriors.
Go Warriors.
Go Warriors. Let's go Warriors. I love it. All right, man. So before we get into the number one maybe not number one, but one of the top things is the pizza.
One of the things we enjoy most.
What do we got here on public service?
So on public service, I did notice that actually doing a little bit of research, this is a very volunteer-oriented town. So they do have what they call the WALVAC, which is the Waldwick American Legion Volunteer Ambulance Corps. So
it's a
they
mouthful.
Yep. Yeah, right. So they definitely have a volunteer ambulance as well as a fire department that's volunteer and an emergency response team. So a lot of people that are volunteers in the towns that they live in right now, being able to move over, you could kind of find a new firehouse or a new ambulance house. Ambulance house?
No, ambulance corps.
You know what I mean. Definitely, you can transfer your talents to here to still be valuable in this area. What I also found, too, it seems like a lot of towns might do this, but they do have something called the Golden Club, which is a group for residents 55 and older. They'll do things like exercise classes, bus trips to Atlantic City, have guest speakers, luncheons around the holidays. So it's kind of a way to really bring in even the older individuals in the town to kind of get them out of the house, things like that. Maybe you're retired neighbors for that matter. So it seems like they do try and do their best to offer as much as they can to the people living in the town.
I think that's a really good thing to touch on too, because so we often deal with buyers who are, have families or about to have families. So the younger community is something that's really important, but to have something to, the 55 and older community approaching retirement, that kind of thing, is another great reason to stay here in town. And I think that's really cool to offer that and to be thinking of that. It's cool.
And I actually drove past, there was a retirement center. I forget what street it was on, but this place looked gorgeous. I was like, if it comes down to it, I would not mind being there. So, to piggyback off of your point, there's so many different things for people of all ages. And, being that we target a lot of, first-time home buyers, and those are the individuals that we most commonly work with, there is still a lot to do for people that are, maybe in that retired age bracket as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk food, drinks. What do we got going on here? So, all right, so we went to Nellie's Pizza. Nellie's Place is the name of it, and the reason we ended up there was not only did some people mention it, but we looked on the One Bite app, so always checking out the One Bite app when we're thinking of the pizza spots here, and they had it as a 7.9, which I think was the highest one in the area.
I think it was the only one that Portnoy was actually at, too.
Oh, he was there?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think he was there.
Yeah,
but
he rated it 7.9.
Oh, he rated Oh, wow. Oof. All right. Well, 7.9 is pretty good rating. It's not in the 8s, but all right. So, again, we mentioned Scott wasn't able to make it yesterday for whatever
Dirt
reason.
in the wound.
But so I did stop at Nellie's Pizza, and it's a bar pie, thin. You're not getting just a slice there. It's a bar restaurant, so you're going to go sit down, order a bar pie, thin crust, which I love. I had some notes down that it was thin crust, but the one thing that I found was like. I like crispy, well-done pizza, right? And so the edges were nice and crispy. The center was a little soft for my personal preference.
Okay.
But it was still a thin. The sauce was really good. It was a nice tangy, kind of like, it's got a little bit of that tang to it. And then, good amount of cheese. I mean, I thought it was definitely a good slice of pizza.
Have any flop?
A little flop to it. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say, look, it's a solid slice of pizza. It's not my personal favorite.
Would it be your go? I mean, now granted, it was the only one you tried, but would it be your go-to if you moved here?
It's the only one I tried. So I'm not gonna commit to that.
Fair.
But I would say that hanging out, having some drinks and whatever. I mean, appetizer for dinner, like it's a great solid slice of pizza.
I walked in earlier today trying to go myself, not realizing that it's a pie place, and I wasn't prepared to house a whole pizza on my own. But just like a quick walk into, and I definitely saw that it's one of those places that like maybe you sit in like a Star Tavern almost in like South Orange.
Reminded me of Park Tavern in Rutherford.
Yep, similar, where you don't really go to order a slice, you get a pie, but it's one of the better pies that you'll have.
Yeah, no, and I think that was a pretty good like indication a little bit of like kind of what this town is all about. Like it was very like. It was a pub, it was a tavern, whatever you want to call it, and it was just comfortable. Like it was a really solid spot, a place I would definitely see myself frequenting.
We don't
say that word. Go there often.
I'm not going to try and say it, but
I'd go
frequenting,
there
I think.
We got someone laughing at us as I'm trying to say words. You're on a podcast. We should be able to say words. All right, cool. So we covered the schools. We got the track there. We're at Gear Block Brewing. Go ahead. Did you have something?
No, I was just going to say the one thing that I got feedback on last time I was talking to a couple of people about the podcast is mentioning if you live in town, are there big grocery stores, big hardware stores, things like that. I did notice a very small, like mom and pop hardware store.
Glad you mentioned that because I was actually told again by one of my friends, clients, that hardware store. He's like, people come from all over like this area to go to that specific hardware store. And oh shoot, I don't have it here in front of me, the name of it, but just
I forgot the name as well. But look up hardware store Waldwick, you'll find it.
Look up the hardware store in Waldwick, and I went in there. And first of all, I will say, if my brother-in-law Brett is watching, Yeti Haven. They've got tons of Yeti stuff there, so they're big on the Yetis. But man, they had so much stuff there. It was such a cool hometown hardware store like vibe.
Yeah.
And it's just like I think people, there's people right in the front entrance like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in so long. What's going on? Like it just has that feel
like
here.
that Tool Time vibe almost.
But just I felt that when I was at Nellie's. I felt that when I was walking around. I felt that when I was actually the manager of the pool. He's like, I walk up with the video thing, and he's like, oh, you're the guy who's driving around videoing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's
there's a call into the local police already.
Yeah, right. Like, but that's the kind of stuff you get in like a small town vibe, so which is really cool.
Yeah, so definitely the hardware store, I'm glad that you were able to at least experience it more than me just driving by. The other thing too is that I didn't notice any like ShopRite, Stop and Shops, things like that, but they do have, it's called Giant Farmers Market. So I'm sure you could probably catch some produce there, things like that. But you would have to go to a different town in order to maybe go grocery shopping, so just be mindful of that. A lot of big towns around, though.
There's a ShopRite right around the corner, right? It's not in Waldwick. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's Allendale, but it's right there. Is it Acme? Oh my gosh, I know the manager of that Acme too. He's gonna kill me when he sees. But anyway, so there is an Acme that's right around here.
Cool. Because I think that's something that's important to touch on too. Is am I going 25 minutes to the grocery store?
No, you're not far. You're not far. Although I don't know if it's an Acme or a ShopRite. Didn't follow through on that one. But no, it's an Acme. At least it was an Acme when I was listing, my buddy's house, and because I went and put the brochure up in the place, and it was right around the corner. So yes, there is grocery store close by, but you do have some other options too, which is cool. Okay, and we're at Gear Block Brewing, so let's give them a little more of a shout out. So we had the pleasure of talking with Tripp here. He was our bartender. Right. Super nice guy. Shared a little bit about his experience here, how long he's been here, or how this all happened. So the head owner, it sounds like the mastermind behind brewing the beer, his name is Tony. And he started in his basement, he said, and then wife kicked him into the garage.
Graduated to the garage.
COVID hits. He's giving out beer to, people, come pick it up in my driveway, until finally his wife said, just go start your own place.
Go do this. You're passionate about it. Go do it.
I mean, and that's, to me, those are just like the stories I love to hear.
Yeah, it's awesome. And this place has been open a little over a year. My first time here, but definitely not my last.
Yeah. No, and the beer is good, man. So what I've had so far, like I said, Autodidact, which is a collaboration with Morris Brewery in Morris Plains. Autodidact is the brewery in Morris Plains, let me be clear. So and this is a collab that I keep
One-way
forgetting.
trip, I think
One-way
it's called.
trip. I keep forgetting the name of it. I
a
promise this.
mouthful.
I promise this is
You're
only
so
my.
focused on pronouncing Didac that you forgot about the actual name.
Dude,
of the beer.
I don't think you're wrong, and I promise this is only the one beer I've had. It's not an alcohol consumption thing. All right, man. Is there anything else that we should mention here about?
I would
Waldwick?
say the way I always like to kind of end it with you is, what's a reason that you would live here?
Reason I would live here is, personally, I really like this town. I would live here because it has that small town feel of Saddlebrook. It's almost like it's just very similar to that Saddlebrook. I grew up in that small town feel, and I know from my own like family hardships and stuff like that like having a community around you when things like that happen can really be helpful. It can really mean a lot if you're ingrained in the community, if you're part of the community.
Right.
One reason I would maybe that same reason that's good can sometimes be a little challenging too, right? So sometimes kind of having everybody kind of know your business a little bit, like not you. It's 2023, right? Like everybody, we're literally, on Instagram and all this stuff. So we're really very connected than we ever were before. But sometimes, just that can be a pro and a con. In my opinion, I think it's more of a positive thing. But that might be one reason, maybe not. Also, Route 17, man, Route 17 is brutal. So that can be tough.
Top 10 worst highways.
What about you? What's something you liked?
Similarly, because I was actually looking at, I had a wide map, so this is one of the areas that I was considering as well. And one of the areas, or one of the towns, or the reason why I like this town is just because, again, it does give you that small town feel. Having grown up in Clifton, which is kind of the opposite, right? Which is a little bit too hustle and bustle.
I mean, it's a city. Clifton's a city.
Right. I actually think that it's kind of nice to go to a place where, it's mostly neighborhoods, so to speak. You don't necessarily have a ton of traffic going in all different directions because there's so much industry like a town like Clifton.
Gotcha.
But I think at the same regard, one of the reasons why I might not consider here is also because of the inconvenience, so to speak. I use that very loosely, but just because I do like the idea of being able to hop in a car and in 30 seconds be at, your local CVS to pick something up, or just have different options of being 5 minutes from a major bookstore or a Walmart, things like that. So I'm sure you'd maybe be 10, 15 minutes out with this, but definitely the convenience factor would be nice.
Well, and that probably bears mentioning too, that like, yes, Route 17 can be challenging, but why is Route 17 challenging? Because there's so much
everything on it.
Because there's so much shopping and convenience. So,
Yeah.
That's something to keep in mind too, right? Everything you could probably ever want is on Route 17.
Agreed.
So, just to be fair, but I get what you're saying. Like sometimes you just want to be able to run to the store and whatever, and if Route 17 is your only option, it can be a little challenging. So, anything else that we got here? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff here, guys. This is a great town. Love being here. Oh, so let me just mention, just because I don't know how long until we get to this, but Allendale, which is close by, the Allendale Steakhouse is right now my wife and I's like go-to. That's like we were telling you about it,
Like
right?
4 times.
Yeah, it is.
Lights out, right?
Oh, it is so good. Definitely get a reservation, especially on a weekend because it's a small place. But man, we've been there twice now and we've loved it both times.
It's on my list.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for us here in Waldwick on the Exploring New Jersey podcast. If you got some value out of this, or somebody who maybe would get some value out of this, drop us a like, a comment. Please share it with them. We're just trying to get the information to the people so that they can make the best decision for themselves. As for you, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So we'll see you next time. And drop a comment. Did we miss something, or was this helpful to you? The more we get feedback, the more
Better we can make it.
Yeah, the better we can make it, the more we can deliver to you guys, which is ultimately our goal. So until next time, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care, guys.